Intentionality. When we are intentional, we have greater impact on the children who attend and the caregivers and parents who support children's early literacy development at home. Intentionality means preparation. So you have to take the time to plan, and you have to really think about it. What do you want to accomplish? What haven't you talked about in the past? Or does a book or a finger play or a rhyme, does it take you someplace where you want to share that with the parents and caregivers as well as the children? Choose carefully what you want to stress to parents and caregivers each week with your tip or tips, what books and props you must set aside, and write out your agenda and tips on a program sheet and cue cards. Preparation is so important. I have a sheet here for early literacy program agenda, which you can fill out for every single story time you're doing. It includes what skill do you want to stress, your tips, your opening song, your chant, your book, all of the things you want to go through, but you make it your own. But it helps you keep that in when you're planning. So if I want to plan using this book, which is called Baby Up, Baby Down, a book of opposites, then I would start with this, okay? And my tip is going to be about vocabulary. Opposites, up and down. What else can I do about that with up and down? And there's other words in there that I might want to use. Well, I've got my chant, my finger play. It can be a lap sit with the baby, and it's the Noble Duke of York. And as you may have noticed, I've got all the words here. This is not a hard song. I don't want to forget because I've been known to do that. And you'll see in just a few minutes my Kleenex box with all of this stuff glued on it. We'll find out what that's all about soon. Another idea, another plan, would be starting off with this little book, Shapes with Little Fish, and we have geometric shapes, which I have also cut out of flannel, and I will talk about the different shapes. Shapes, triangle, also a hat, 1, 2, 3 corners. It's involved in the plan, and a felt board song with bingo. You know bingo. Well, I have the dog. There was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name. And then we have the letters, which I'll put on the flannel board. I have this all together, and usually for story time, I kind of pack it up in a manila envelope to move it around so I don't lose any of the pieces, and I don't lose my cue card with this because it's very important. When you're taping a story time, you certainly can stop and pause and get everything in order. But I am so used to always having all of my notes right next to me for everything, including nursery rhymes that I know backwards and forwards. But I forget them sometimes, and you may too. In the excitement of the moment, in thinking about your tips and where you're going to say them, all of that needs the plan so that you have it written down and ready to go. Intentionality means clear messaging. It's time to learn that elevator speech that everybody talks about. You need to be able to say, I know and I've learned about early childhood development, and I'm trying to incorporate that into my story times with intentionality so that parents and caregivers can help their children at home. We want children to become successful readers because we interact with families, and we are not a child's first teacher, and we want to help parents and caregivers that are. You need to be able to say to your director and say, I need 2 hours of time at my desk so that I can plan my story hours each week and assess the one I just did. I need that time away from a reference desk and other duties in my schedules because that is so important to my job here. The youth services and children's department interacts with families, not just with our children. The families are our patrons, and we are here to serve them in our community. That's all part of your elevator speech. So you need to work on that. I've got a rather new board book, Baby Up, Baby Down, a first book of opposites. And by the way, I like using board books online because they're small. You can put them up to the camera. They're very easy to see. Whereas some of the picture books, or most of them, look wonderful and you love them and you want to read them. However, when you try and show the whole picture, you're really not able to read it, communicate what you want to, because you're trying to fit it into your screen. It doesn't mean it can't be done. You can find lots of ways to do it. Just a quick note that I think board books for our early literacy tips are an excellent way of conveying what we want to do. Baby is up, baby is down. Those are vocabulary words, and we can actually do the movements to show the words. Baby is up, baby is down, and we can go on with the next page. Vocabulary is very important. Words. So we have a tip that we want to be able to say. Vocabulary is knowing the meanings of words. And children who have large vocabularies, who know lots of different words, find it easier to read when the time comes to learn to read. Or another tip, it's fine to use words that children are unfamiliar with. Don't replace the words in the books, but just explain so they'll understand as you go along. And using the words with the movement, baby is up, baby is down, is simply a great way to incorporate that. Another thing to work with your tips are tips for parents of what they can do, make, have in the house to use to work on those tips. This is a simple Kleenex, little Kleenex box that I have covered with a glue gun with all kinds of objects. I've got them out of the dollar store, really cheap, sketchy. Oh, look at the pom-poms and this soft little washcloth that was very easy to cut up because I didn't care. But you might have things, and parents might have stuff at home that they can do the same thing with. So what is this for? Language, vocabulary. Why, when we get to this scratchy one, we have to actually look up in a thesaurus, maybe, some of the other words we could use to try and get baby to understand, or a toddler for this language. Is this coarse and bristly and scratchy and lumpy and rough? Oh, look at these. These are fluffy or shaggy, fuzzy. Oh, this is smooth, cushiony. It's a good word. Soft. And how about these things? You know, these are like those plastic loofah things. I just cut it apart and threw it on there. Springy and fluffy, flexible, spongy. They're just words, but it might even help to know that there's something inside. And baby or toddlers will just love pulling things out of this. Now, I have some really colorful scarves that are clear, but that doesn't mean that other people might have other things. You could put handkerchiefs in here. You could put soft toys that they can put their hands in and find. All kinds of things to help with that tip that you gave for vocabulary. But this time I'm not using vocabulary. I'm using letter knowledge with this little board book called Shapes with Little Fish. It's by Lucy Cousins. I like her drawings. I like this little book. The shapes are perfect for early childhood skills, early development. And not only that, but you can put your finger and actually go around the shapes because they have extra board book material so you can feel it. It's really cool, and it's throughout the entire book. And we know Lucy Cousin's drawings from her Maisie books are so vibrant and very good for young children. Now that I've chosen my book and I want to do letter knowledge, am I doing the alphabet? No, because this story time, this agenda is for maybe babies and toddlers, probably toddlers and maybe even some early preschoolers, like 3, 4 years old. They're still going to love this. Going through all the shapes. How about taking a felt board and cutting out some shapes and then putting them up here and going over the shapes again. This is something parents can do, and you can bring that up in your tip. Parents can cut out shapes and have them out there for the children to look at and play with. Also, noticing shapes in signs, in words, around the house. All kinds of books have shapes, and it's not difficult to cut out shapes, and the kids will enjoy playing with them. They can color them, they can paint them. The back of cereal boxes are great for using with shapes, so please try and think about that. And then how about with shapes? Let's go right to the letters. We're not going to do a lot with letters. We're talking more about the shapes because the shapes are the letters. Oh, and I didn't even say my tip yet. So our very special tip is that before children learn their letters, they are aware of the shapes. So before they can hold a crayon or a marker, they can move their bodies. So let's move our bodies with this shape of a triangle. My hat, it has 3 corners. 3 corners has my hat. If it didn't have 3 corners, it would not be my hat. And they can also make a newspaper hat. She can wear the hat. There we go. And it has 1, 2, 3 corners. And you can find the directions for these newspaper hats all over the place. They're fun to make. Another song might be one to do with letters. We really would not have to talk about this as anything other than a fun song. But this fun song, well, it has the name of a dog. Yes, and this is the dog's name. B-I-N-G-O. Bingo. And there was a dog. There was a farmer had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, might be fun to, as we've done in the past, take away a letter and you clap it. Or take away all the letters and then, here we go, put back one at a time as you do the clapping for bingo and whatever, just as a way to go over the letters. We don't have to discuss any more. Then we now will start to learn B-I-N-G-O, bingo. And by the way, this was all written out on a cue card because I always need help in remembering these things. And my last activity is something you all know, the Noble Duke of York. Now, with babies, yes, this is my doll baby. The babies, well, you just might rock them or play with them. Oh, the noble Duke of York, he had 10,000 men. He marched them up to the top of the hill and he marched them down again. And when they were up, they were up. And when they were down, they were down. And when they were only halfway up, they were neither up nor down. Or you can have children just stand up and sit down and play that. And certainly that's a great way to do it. So I hope that helps you get an idea of how we put this together. Intentionality means assessing your program and giving yourself time to improve and build on it, which is part of why you ask for special time. Take the time to assess your work, ask yourself if your program did work, and give yourself time to grow. You need to go down your plan and say, did this work? Did everyone participate? And when you're doing it online, you have no idea how it's working or if anyone's participating. But let me put it to you this way. When you are planning that program, how did you feel about your own performance? How did you feel when you were giving out those tips? If you felt good, you felt comfortable, then give yourself a check plus, because that's how you assess it online. If you still felt uncomfortable, if you redid the tape over and over again, then you're not quite there yet. But the fact that you are actually trying is so important. Thank you. Next time, we're going to work on the first early literacy skill, talking. We'll have lots to say and do with that, and I hope you'll join me.